Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Jam?
And I'm surprised at you. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I went on a Formula One tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
Well, you don't know.
What's happening, everybody? Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. You know what time it is. If it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Historian bringing you all of that boxing history. Salute to Miss Cass. She's the wind beneath these sails. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cat Sports, the Box Historian. Today, a salute to marvelous Marvin Hagler. A salute to marvelous Marvin Hagler. How's the family today? Tomorrow, May 23rd, would have been the 72nd birthday of the marvelous one. Passed away in 2021 at the age of 66. Couple months before his birthday. And today, we're just going to have a salute to him. We're going to talk about his career, some of his top performances, the Sugar Ray situation, that big fight in 87, how it should have been 4 years earlier in 83. And we're going to talk about his relationship with his trainers and managers, the Petronelli brothers, his handlers. All of that today on Cat Sports, the Box Historian, bringing you all of that boxing history. Well, how's the family today? It's Friday, back at the end of another week of boxing history. Yeah, we just going to take a look at marvelous Marvin Hagler on the eve of what would have been his 72nd birthday on May 23rd, 1954. one of the top 3 middleweights in boxing history, under 60 pounds, the marvelous one. But how's everyone? We're going to get started with the fight of the day in moments. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays now, instead of Monday through Friday. Have a day in between each show to make everything better for everybody. And time permitting, at the end of the show today, we look at a different country, little boxing history in a country every day. It's going to be India. Now, India was primarily known for amateur boxing. I can't think of one boxer from India that's in the pro ranks, but I'm sure it's some. But primarily known for amateur boxing, and time permitting, we're going to talk a little bit about India today. A little boxing history in India. Okay. Well, let's get ready to get started with today's fighters today. We got Usyk fighting this weekend. Next weekend is another one we've been waiting for. A lot of talk about this fight, a lot of back and forth. O'Shaquie Foster and Raymond Ford. O'Shaquie wins. Will he get the Shakur fight? I don't think O'Shaquie has anything for Shakur. He says he wants that fight, but my thoughts is be careful what you wish for, O'Shaquie. Now, O'Shaquie, I got O'Shaquie beating Raymond Ford, but Shakur is an entirely different story. Slick Shakur Stevenson. I think O'Shaquie will come up short, way short in that one. Shakur versus O'Shaquie will be a dominant 12-round decision for Shakur. O'Shaquie might win a 2 or 3 rounds. But yeah, this weekend, Usyk, O'Shaquie, and Raymond Ford. Next weekend. But May has been a great month for boxing. Started off with a bang. On the first weekend of the month, we had Monster and Nakatani, remember, and David Benavidez and Zerto to start the month off. And then we had Keyshawn and the Her Albright. So a great month of boxing. And next month, we got a huge one. Boots versus Zandazayas. A lot of talk about that one. I think Boots will have a dominant performance. He said this is the type of fight he's been waiting for. He said we'll see the best of him when they put him in there with the best. So I'm looking for a dominant performance for Boots. But that's next month, June 27th. So looking forward to that one. But let's get ready to get started with our fight of the day today. Cat Sports the Box Historian, bringing you all that boxing history. Again, today is going to be a salute to marvelous Marvin Hagler, because tomorrow is his birthday. Would have been 72 years old tomorrow. Passed away 5 years ago in 2021 at age 26, a couple months before the 67th birthday. A salute to marvelous Marvin Hagler today. So let's get into our fight of the day then. Get this thing kicked off. So now, without further ado, today's fight of the day. Okay, today's fight of the day is marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Alan Minter, September 27th, 1980. Marvelous begins his dominant reign. Marvelous begins his dominant reign. Okay, a tribute to the great marvelous Marvin Hagler today. And he's in the fight of the day. This was his first championship win. Second title opportunity. First time he got robbed against Vito Antuofermo. This time he said he wasn't leaving it up to the judges, and he didn't. Let's talk about it. The marvelous one. Again, marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Alan Minter. September 27th, 1980. Marvelous begins his dominant reign. Let's get into it. For too long, Marvelous Marvin Hagler had been denied, ignored, and unjustly sidelined, while lesser middleweights had got the big opportunities and the big money. For too long, Hagler had toiled in the shadows, in grimy gyms in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, while the bright lights in New York and Las Vegas failed to highlight his remarkable intensity and undeniable talent. The title of uncrowned champion had gotten old. It was 1980, a new decade, and Hagler should have been the real champion years ago. Okay? There's a shot at Hagler and Vito Antuofermo, the fight he got robbed in. They robbed him blind in that one. Despite decimating the division and steamrolling over Willie Monroe, Eugene Hart, Bobby Watts, Mike Colbert, and Benny Briscoe, a shot at the title never came Hagler's way. In the words of Joe Frazier, you have 3 strikes against you. You're black, you're a southpaw, and you're good, sounding more and more like a prophecy. And when his overdue chance finally arrived in November of 1979, the judges denied the Marvelous one his due. Defending champion Vito Antuofermo won at best 3 or 4 rounds against Marvin on national television, but the Vegas officials somehow scored Hagler's 15-round clinic a draw. Marvin went back to Massachusetts angry and without the title. Angry and without the title. Now that's a shot of Vito Antuofermo and Alan Minter. Alan Minter on the left, Vito Antuofermo on the right. Let's talk about that. Now, Antuofermo defended 4 months after the Hagler fight against British champion Alan Minter and dropped a close and controversial 15-round decision. The rematch in England saw Vito battered and stopped on cuts in 8, and Minter became a national hero. His status as champion bringing pride to all Englishmen. But little did they know the misfortune awaiting him. Securing the world title meant he had to face next a very determined and dangerous Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Held in London, Wembley Arena, and broadcast to millions in America on ABC's Wide World of Sports, Hagler vs. Minter would highlight the best and worst of pro boxing. The worst emanated from the overzealous patriotism fueled by boos of the British fans. The best from the cool proficiency of Hagler's performance, his unique blend of ferocity and sublime technique. Just days before the fight, caught up in the pressure and the hype, Minter uttered words he would later retract, but that presaged the mayhem to come. "No black man," growled Minter to an interviewer, "is going to take my title." And by the time the rafters of Wembley Arena had stopped reverberating after some 15,000 gave a thunderous rendition of God Save the Queen, it began to dawn on the organizers of the fight what was taking place. They had unwittingly created a flashpoint for the worst manifestations of British nationalism. Gangs of young white men filled the upper tiers, and by this time, they had been freely buying and drinking beer for hours. The pro-white, pro-British passions, as well as the anti-American sentiments, were all on full display. In the midst of this tension and fury, Hagler was the still point, the eye of the storm. Having waited too long and endured too much to let a hostile crowd intimidate him, he remained calmly focused on the task at hand. The debacle with Antio Firmo in Las Vegas was still fresh in his mind. And prior to the fight, he had made it clear he would not allow a similar outcome. This time, he told anyone who would listen, "I'm bringing my own judges." And then he would hold up his fist to make his meaning crystal clear. When informed of Mentor's racist slur, Hagler turned to his manager, Goody Petronelli. "Goody," he said, "I'm going to hurt this man." Now, the battle was underway, and round one saw brisk exchanges, with both men scoring. But two things were evident by the end of the first stanza. Hagler enjoyed a huge advantage in power, and while Mentor figured to rely on tight defense and smart boxing technique, the challenger was out-jabbing the champion. This forced Mentor to commit strategic suicide as he marched forward and threw flurries of punches, hoping aggression could win the day. It was a futile hope, though it made for spirited action. The drunk patriots in the stands bellowed their approval with a deafening chant of Mentor over and over. The champion's manager, Doug Bidwell, was less enthused, and he gave his men a stern talk between rounds, his final command being, "Settle down." And Mentor did show discipline at the start of round two, keeping Hagler at the end of his punches. But then the challenger, with ease, closed the distance, connected with a sharp 1-2, and instantly Mentor lost his head. To the delight of the British fans, he scowled at Hagler and waved him in, and the two southpaws went toe-to-toe. Within seconds, Mentor's nose was gushing blood, and a nasty cut had opened under his left eye. The champion came back near the end of the round to land some good left hands, but this was now the fight Hagler wanted, a brawl, where his greatest strength, power, and counter-punching skills would be the deciding factors. Throughout his career, Mentor's handicap had been his tissue paper skin, its tendency to tear and cut, leading to all of his career defeats. Now the Briton was bleeding all over the ring as Hagler's shorter, more precise punches snapped his head from side to side. The champion's mouthpiece went flying, and so did his blood, with cuts around both eyes now, and Mentor had no reply, his punches missing the mark as Hagler countered on the inside with thudding right hooks and uppercuts. The referee, alarmed by the gashes and all the blood, paused the action and led a dazed Mentor back to his corner. His trainer Bidwell surveyed the damage and then immediately signaled surrender. As soon as the crowd comprehended that the fight had been stopped, the arena was engulfed in chaos. Hagler, in a gesture of triumph and thanksgiving, raised his arms, and then sank to his knees at ring center. Suddenly, a full can of beer hurled out of the darkness above, just missed his head. Then a hail of bottles and cans descended as Hagler's cornermen rushed in to shield him. More than one ringsider was struck by wayward projectiles as people dived for cover under chairs and tables, and some even went under the ring itself. A phalanx of British police swiftly hustled the new champion and his people out of the ring, and the torrent of debris followed them as they ran for the exit. And later, as the car carrying Hagler and members of his team exited the arena, someone heaved a brick and smashed the windshield. It was a shameful fight. Shameful night for British sports fans. Shameful. Just shameful. And there's Hagler's team. Hagler's under that. They shielded him from all the debris, bottles, cans, everything that was coming in the ring. Okay? You can see Hagler's foot, see it there, under the guy with the Marvelous Marvin on his back. See his leg and sticking out. Yeah, Hagler's under all that. Nothing came easy for Marvelous Marvin Hagler, especially the glory. What should have been the most resplendent night of his entire career was marred by hate and drunkenness and racism. But Hagler had waited so long, had endured so much, that when it was all over, he refused to let the mayhem undermine his satisfaction. It was a dream fulfilled, he said, of the moment when he realized he had won. He had finally done it. He was the undisputed champion of the world. 7 hard years of striving and struggling were, at long last, redeemed. There you have it, the fight of the day. Marvelous begins his dominant reign. Yeah, but it was shameful how those British fans acted. Shameful. Yeah, right there, when they announced the official decision, and the winner by corner retirement ends a new middleweight champion of the world, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Right then, a bottle came out from above and just missed his head. And that would have probably cut his head wide open, a bottle from way up there in the rafters, with all that velocity coming down, just missed his head. And then his team rushed in there and shielded him. Just shameful, shameful, shameful. And then, when him and members of his team was in the car, leaving in the limousine, leaving the arena area, somebody threw a brick and smashed the windshield of the car. Shameful, just shameful, man. It was bad. But yeah, today we're going to do a salute profile tribute to Marvelous Marvin today, okay? That's what today's show is going to be. Tribute. Tomorrow would have been his 72nd birthday for the Marvelous One. Okay? And we're going to look at some his life and career, and we're going to look at some of his top performances of his career, and also we're going to look at his relationship with the Petronelli brothers, his handlers. One Petronelli brother was his manager. The other one was his trainer. And it was quite a team that worked so well together. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Great, one of the greatest middleweights of all time. But before we get started, let's do this. we're going to have a moment of silence for the memory of the great Marvin Hagler. A moment of silence for the marvelous one, okay? Let's do that. So a moment of silence for the memory of the great marvelous Marvin Hagler, who would have been 72 years old tomorrow. Okay, so let's get started with our salute to the great marvelous Marvin Hagler now. All right. How's everybody this Friday afternoon? Salute to the great marvelous one, marvelous Marvin Hagler. First, we're just going to talk about his life, a little bit about his career, starting out. And the entire show today is going to be on the marvelous one. All right. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, born Marvin Nathaniel Hagler, was an American professional boxer who reigned as the undisputed middleweight champion from 1980 to 1987, amassing a pro record of 62 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws over 67 fights, with 52 knockouts. Born on May 23, 1954, in Newark, New Jersey, he legally changed his name to Marvelous in 1982 after frustration with broadcasters, omitting the moniker he had adopted to promote himself. Hagler passed away on March 13, 2021, at the age of 66 in New Hampshire. Hagler's early life was marked by hardship. After a fire destroyed his family's home in Newark, he moved with his mother and siblings to Brockton, Massachusetts in the late 1960s, where he began boxing at a local gym and was trained by the Petronelli brothers, Goody and Pat. As an amateur, he compiled the 52 wins, 2 loss record with 43 knockouts over 54 amateur fights, and won the national AAU 165-pound title in 1973. Turning pro in 1973, Hagler fought in tough fights against top contenders like Bobby Watts, Willie Monroe, and Benny Briscoe, often as the away fighter in his opponent's hometowns, building resilience that defined his career. His breakthrough came on September 27, 1980, when he stopped Alan Minter in the 3rd round to win the WBA and WBC middleweight titles, becoming the undisputed champion. Over the next 7 years, Hagler made 12 successful title defenses, the most by any middleweight champion of the 20th century, including victories over Roberto Duran in a 15-round war in 1983, John the Beast Mugabe in 1986, and his most famous fight, a 3rd-round knockout of Thomas the Hitman Hearns in 1985, often hailed as one of boxing's greatest fights. His reign ended in controversy on April 6, 1987, with a split decision loss to Sugar Ray Leonard in his first fight after a layoff of more than a year, after which Hagler retired in 1988 without a rematch. Post-retirement, Hagler relocated to Italy, where he pursued acting, appearing in films such as Indio and Virtual Weapon. He was inducted into the World Boxing Hall of Fame in 1992 and the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1993, named Fighter of the Decade for the 1980s by the Ring magazine, and recognized as one of the greatest middleweights in boxing history for his durability, power, and switch hitting ability. Okay, so now let's look at Marvelous Marvin Hagler's early life and amateur career. Early life and amateur career. Salute to Thomas Hill, the legendary Thomas Hill. Salute to Marvin Hagler today, T. Hill. Tomorrow, May 23rd, would have been his 72nd birthday. So today's show is going to be a salute to the marvelous one. Let's look at his early life and amateur career now. There's a young Marvin Hagler right there. Early life, amateur career. Early life, family, and education. Marvin Nathaniel Hagler was born on May 23rd, 1954, in Newark, New Jersey, the eldest of 6 children to Ida Mae Hagler and Robert Sims, who were not married at the time of his birth. His father abandoned the family when Hagler was 11 years old, leaving his mother to raise him and his siblings, including a half-brother, Robbie, who later became a pro boxer himself, and 4 sisters, and she raised them in challenging circumstances. The family resided in one of Newark's poorest neighborhoods, where poverty and crime were pervasive, and racial tensions simmered amid broader social unrest. The 1967 Newark riots, which resulted in 26 deaths and widespread destruction, included a fire that burnt down the Hagler family home. And that prompted the family to relocate to Brockton, Massachusetts in 1968 to live with Ida Mae's sister, escaping the violence and ongoing hardships. In Brockton, they continued to face economic struggle and racial discrimination in a working class community. Hagler attended Brockton High School, but received limited formal education, dropping out as a teenager in the 9th grade to help support his family through manual labor jobs. Despite these obstacles, he found self-motivation and discipline in local boxing gyms, initially drawn to the sport after experiencing a street fights in Newark and being roughed up in Brockton. At around age 15, Marvin joined the gym run by brothers Pat and Goody Petronelli, marking the start of his structured training that soon transitioned into an amateur boxing career. So let's look at the amateur boxing career of the marvelous one. Amateur career, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Okay, let's take a look at his amateur career now. Okay. Hagler entered organized amateur boxing in 1969 at the age of 15, shortly after his family relocated to Brockton, Massachusetts, where he began training at the newly opened Petronelli gym under the guidance of brothers Goody and Pat Petronelli. The Petronellis, local boxing enthusiasts who had recently established the gym, recognized Hagler's raw potential following a street altercation that highlighted his resilience and family hardship. Under the Petronelli tutelage, Hagler developed a rigorous training regimen centered in Brockton, emphasizing extensive road work through the city's streets to build endurance and mental toughness, alongside drills to refine his natural southpaw stance for tactical advantage in the ring. This foundation transformed him from a novice into a dominant competitor, primarily in the light middleweight and middleweight division, where he honed his aggressive, pressure-fighting style. Hagler compiled an amateur record of 52 wins, 2 losses, and 43 knockouts over 54 total amateur fights. His losses included a decision to Wilbur Cameron in the 1972 New England AAU light middleweight final and a points loss to Dale Grant in the semifinal of the 1973 National Golden Gloves tournament at light middleweight. Experiences that motivated him to intensify his preparation. Key accomplishments included securing the New England Golden Gloves title in 1973. That same year, Hagler won the AAU National Championship at 165 pounds, defeating the Marine Corps champion Terry Dodds in the final and earning recognition as the tournament's most outstanding fighter. These triumphs solidified his reputation and paved the way for his transition to professional boxing. So now we're going to take a brief look at his pro career now. Just a brief look at the Marvelous One's professional career now. And we're going to look at some of his fights, Sugar Ray situation, the Petronelli brothers, all that coming up. But now just a brief look at his pro career. Okay, let's get into that. Hagler's pro boxing career, which spanned from 1973 to 1987, resulted in a record of 62 wins, 52 by knockout, 3 losses, 2 draws, 67 total fights, yielding a knockout percentage of approximately 84%. This impressive tally included an undefeated streak of 37 fights, compiling 36 wins and 1 draw from November 1976 to April 1987, during which he established himself as one of the dominant forces in the middleweight division. Hagler captured the undisputed middleweight world championship in 1980 by defeating Alan Minter by third round stoppage to claim the WBA, WBC, and the ring title, later adding the IBF belt in 1983 against Mustafa Hamza. He held these titles until 1987, maintaining lineal championship status throughout his reign as the man who beat the man in the division. Now, during this period, Hagler made 12 successful defenses of his championship, with 11 ending in knockout victories, showcasing his relentless pressure fighting style and punching power against top contenders. Earlier in his career, Hagler secured regional recognition as in the New England boxing scene, building his reputation in the Northeast. His overall body of work has earned him high rankings among all-time middleweights, such as top 5 in most boxing community lists, reflecting his status as a benchmark for excellence in the 160-pound division. So let's take a look at his life after boxing. Marvelous Marvin Hagler's life after boxing now. Okay, life after boxing. For Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Life after boxing. Retirement and acting career. Now, following his controversial split decision loss to Sugar Ray Leonard in 1987, Hagler stepped away from pro boxing and officially announced his retirement on June 13, 1988, citing frustration over failed negotiations for a rematch with Leonard. He relocated to Milan, Italy, shortly after seeking a quieter life away from the ring while exploring new opportunities. Hagler's transition to acting began in earnest in Italy, where he leveraged his imposing physicality and marvelous persona for roles in action films. His debut came in 1989 with Indio, directed by Antonio Margheriti, in which Hagler portrayed Jake, a tough U.S. Marine fighting to protect the Amazon rainforest from corporate exploitation. The film marked his entry into Italian cinema, a genre that embraced his boxing background for high-energy fight scenes. He followed this with a lead role in the serial Indio 2, The Revolt, again as Jake, battling rebels and mercenaries in a jungle setting. Throughout the 1990s, Hagler appeared in several more Italian productions, often in minor or supporting roles that highlighted his athleticism, such as in Across Red Night and the action thriller Virtual Weapon, where he starred alongside Terence Hill. His filmography ultimately included several projects, blending feature films with occasional television appearances and voice work, though he never achieved major Hollywood stardom. Despite the excitement of his new career, Hagler faced challenges adapting to Italy, particularly with the language barrier as an English speaker in a predominantly Italian-speaking industry. He expressed determination to learn Italian, noting in the 1991 interview, "I like the language very much, and I must learn how to speak Italian if I want to eat." This hurdle did not deter him. Instead, it extended his marvelous image into a charismatic screen presence, endearing him to Italian audiences who celebrated his post-boxing reinvention. Okay, then broadcasting and other ventures. Broadcasting and other ventures. Looking at Marvelous Marvin, life after boxing now. He went into broadcasting too. Okay. Now, following his retirement from boxing, Hagler ventured into broadcasting as a commentator, primarily for Italian television. He continued providing commentary for major fights in the late 1980s and 1990s, including appearances as a guest expert on shows like Sport Time. He also provided commentary for boxing telecasts on the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC. Hagler also pursued business opportunities, including television endorsements that capitalized on his championship legacy. These ventures, alongside his parallel pursuits in acting, provided financial stability as he transitioned from the ring. In Brockton, his influence endured through the local boxing community, though he did not directly establish new fitness facilities there post-retirement. In 1990, Hagler relocated permanently to the Milan area in Italy, seeking a fresh start away from the intense scrutiny of American boxing circles. He maintained his U.S. citizenship while embracing Italian life, spending most of his time there to balance tax obligations and personal freedom. The move allowed him to focus on family and creative endeavors in a less racially charged environment compared to the United States. In his later years, Hagler largely avoided U.S. media engagements, stemming from lingering bitterness over the controversial 1987 loss to Leonard, which he viewed as a robbery that tainted his legacy. Instead, he made sporadic appearances at boxing events worldwide, maintained a low profile in America while residing in Italy. In pre-2021 interviews, Hagler expressed deep satisfaction with his career, describing it as marvelous, emphasizing the personal growth and global respect it brought him, particularly through iconic victories like his 1985 war against Thomas the Hitman Hearn. Let's look at his personal life and death for the marvelous one. Here he is with some of his children. Kensaw Love 1, Jaw, Mike Masick, all in the building. Salute, my people. Jaw, Mike Masick, Kensaw Love 1. Tomorrow would have been marvelous, May 23rd would have been marvelous Marvin Hagler's 72nd birthday. So we're doing a little salute to him today. Okay. We appreciate y'all for showing up today. Appreciate all the support. Thank you. Okay, let's continue. Now we're going to look at marvelous Marvin Hagler's personal life and his death. Marriages, family, and residences. There he is. He had 5 children. Okay. Now, Hagler married Bertha in 1980, and the couple had 5 children: Sherelle, Celeste, James, Marvin Jr., and Gentry. Now, the family resided in a suburban Boston home during Hagler's active boxing career, where Bertha provided support and the demands of his professional life. So she occasionally expressed concerns about the risk of his fights. The Haglers maintained a low public profile for their children, shielding them from media scrutiny as Marvin pursued his championship reign. Now, following his retirement in 1987, the family continued to live in the Brockton, Massachusetts area, where Hagler had trained and built his legacy before he relocated to Milan, Italy in 1989 to pursue acting opportunities. He later maintained a residence in the Milan suburbs and also owned a home in Bartlett, New Hampshire. Now, Hagler and Bertha divorced in 1990 after reaching a settlement. In 2000, he married Kay Guerrera, an Italian woman with whom he shared his life in Italy and New Hampshire. There's him and his second wife right there. Italian lady, Kay Guerrera. BVO Sports TV in the building. Salute BVO. One of my YouTube nephews right there. BVO Sports TV. Sunday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. One of the best shows in these YouTube streets. Salute BVO. Tomorrow would have been marvelous Marvin Hagler's 72nd birthday, so we're doing a little tribute profile to him today. Okay? And that's a picture of him and his second wife there. She was Italian. He had married an American woman, but then they had 5 children. Then they divorced in 1990, and they married this lady here in 2000, Kay Guerrera. Okay? So in retirement, Hagler embraced Italian culture, starring in several action films produced there and expressing appreciation for the country's lifestyle, people, and environment. He developed a passion for golf, often playing to unwind, and enjoyed collecting classic cars as a personal interest. So now his health issues and death of the marvelous one. He had no major health issues, none of them related to boxing, but let's talk about it. Now, no major health complication from boxing-related wear and tear, such as chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, or severe neurological issues were publicly reported during his post-retirement decade, and he was described as remaining sharp and disciplined in his habits. Hagler died on March 13th, 2021, at the age of 66 from natural causes. His family, including his widow, Kay Hagler, and son James clarified that the death was not connected to his boxing career or any vaccine side effects, countering unfounded social media rumors. Kay Hagler announced the passing on the founder's official Facebook page, stating, "My beloved husband, Marvelous Marvin, passed away unexpectedly," and emphasized that it was a peaceful event at home with no prior prolonged illness. No autopsy details were released to the public, respecting the family's privacy. Hagler's last known public appearance was in a 2020 interview discussing his life and career, reflecting his continued engagement with boxing circles. A private family service was held shortly after his death, as he had expressed dislike for funerals during his lifetime. In May 2021, a public memorial tribute took place on May 23rd, his birthday, declared Marvelous Marvin Hagler Day by the city of Brockton and the state of Massachusetts at Rocky Marciano Stadium in his hometown. Rocky was also from Brockton. And it was attended by hundreds of fans, family, and boxing personalities, including Bernard Hopkins, with capacity limited to around 3,000 due to COVID-19 protocols. Now, legacy and achievements for the Marvelous One. Legacy and achievements for the Marvelous One. What's up, Al Booger? You know, tomorrow, Marvin Hagler's 72nd birthday would have been. So we're doing a salute to the Marvelous One today. On the eve of what would have been his 72nd birthday. Passed away in 2021 at age 66, a couple of months before his 67th birthday. But salute, Al Booger. Good to see you today. Okay, legacy and achievements of the Marvelous One. Honors and recognition. Now, Hagler was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1993 in his first year of eligibility, recognizing his dominance as an undisputed middleweight champion. In 2002, the Ring magazine ranked him 17th among the greatest fighters of the previous 80 years, highlighting his technical skill, durability, and 12 successful title defenses. Now, following his death in 2021, Hagler received several tributes that underscored his enduring influence on boxing. In May 2021, the city of Brockton, Massachusetts, his adopted hometown, declared Marvelous Marvin Hagler Day on what would have been his 67th birthday, honoring his contributions to the sport and the community of Brockton. A significant posthumous recognition came in 2024 with the unveiling of a life-size bronze statue in Brockton on June 13th. The $150,000 sculpture funded by a state grant secured by Massachusetts State Representative Jerry Cassidy and commissioned from Broden Studios depicts Hagler in his iconic action pose from the 1985, the war fight against Thomas the Hitman Hearns, symbolizing Hagler's aggressive fighting style. Located in the newly dedicated Marvelous Marvin Hagler Park at the corner of Petronelli and Hagler Way, Petronelli brothers was his handler. The statue serves as a lasting tribute to his legacy in the city of Champions. Hagler's legacy continues through media portrayals and rankings that affirm his status as one of boxing's elite middleweight. ESPN has frequently cited him among the top historical figures at 160 pounds, emphasizing his 67 fight career, 52 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, and role in elevating the division during the 1980s. The 2021 Showtime docuseries, The Kings, explored his rivalry with Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, and Roberto Duran, renewing interest in his era-defining career. The nickname Marvelous which Hagler legally adopted in 1982 after frustration with broadcasting, remains a staple in boxing discourse, evoking his relentless determination and southpaw mastery. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's look at the boxing style of the marvelous one, his boxing style. Then we're going to look at some of his greatest performances. But first, let's look at his boxing style. Okay? Boxing style of Marvin Hagler. And he made Marvelous Marvin Hagler his government name because for some reason the commentators wouldn't call him Marvelous. They called Sugar Ray, they called Thomas Hearns the Hitman, they called Duran the Hands of Stone, but they wouldn't call Marvin Marvelous. So he changed his name on his birth certificate, his legal government name to Marvin Hagler. Let's look at his boxing style now. What kind of style did the Marvelous one have? The Marvelous Marvin Hagler was an elite boxer puncher, renowned for his versatility, aggressive pressure, and legendary southpaw stance. He seamlessly transitioned between stalking opponents, brawling on the inside, and boxing intelligently at range. Although naturally right-handed, he was coached as a southpaw, giving his left hand and right jab immense power. Hagler was highly comfortable fighting with either foot forward and could switch stances in the middle of a combination. Rather than rushing in blindly, Hagler used calculated restraint, using feints and distance control to back opponents against the ropes. He possessed heavy knockout power in both hands and an incredible durable chin, allowing him to absorb damage and trade blows effectively. He was known for throwing sharp, fluid combinations from various ranges, such as his trademark gazelle jab and long-range hooks. Okay, that's a little look at the style of the Marvelous One. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of his greatest performances, like 10 or 12 of the Marvelous One's greatest performances of his career now. Okay, let's take a look at that. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Some of the greatest performances of his career. Left us too soon, 2021, at just 66 years old. He would have been 72 today. I'm only 6 years away from 72. I got like 40 more years left, I think. So, yeah. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. But now let's look at his legendary, some of his greatest fights. Not cast sports. There we go. Yeah, some of the greatest performances of the Marvelous One's career now. All right, how's everybody this Friday afternoon? We are Monday, Wednesday, Friday now. Give me time to, more time to make the shows better, more research and everything. See how good this is? Had a whole day to prepare it. Okay. All right, let's talk about it. Some of the Marvelous One's greatest performances. Some of the great Marvelous Marvin Hagler victories. Okay, here we go. Now, tomorrow is the day when Marvin Nathaniel Hagler, otherwise known as the one and only Marvelous Marvin Hagler, was born. A man destined to become one of the greatest fighters of all time. And so what better time to recall his enduring ring brilliance? For fans who still vividly recall the excitement of watching this latter-day great in action on free TV in the 1980s, his death in 2021 remains a surreal happening, still difficult to accept, especially since the memories of him battling guys like Caveman Lee and Marcus Geraldo on live television are still fresh. And the thrill of the opening bell to his legendary clash with Thomas the Hitman Hearns, one of the most thrilling and action-packed battles of all time, remains unforgettable. That Marvelous Marvin Hagler is an all-time great, no one can doubt. He will forever be one of the most feared and accomplished middleweight champions in boxing history, and one of the best southpaws to ever step into the squared circle. Which begs the question, which performances best exemplify his greatness? So now we're going to look at some of his top performances. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Okay. Yusuf Hamani, second round knockout, February 16th, 1980. Yusuf Hamani. Now, convincing victories over David Love and Emil Griffith attested to the fact that Algeria's Hamani was an accomplished pugilist, both amateur and pro. A fighter who figured to give Marvelous Marvin, at the very least, some serious work. But what Yusuf and his people could not have anticipated was that this was a version of the Marvelous One, primed for destruction. Seizing as he was over the injustice he suffered 3 months earlier, when the judges robbed Marvin blind in his first fight against Vito Antuofermo. A raging Hagler wasted no time in demonstrating his superiority. His second round knockout of Hamani, among the most vicious in his career. See, Hamani had the misfortune of being his first fight after that Antuofermo robbery. And he just destroyed Hamani in 2 rounds. Okay. For Gencio over Mijas, 8th round TKO, February 17th, 1981. February 17th, 1981. Few knew at the time, and even fewer recall now, but Fully Obel, as Marvin liked to call his Venezuelan rival, was a legit contender. The man could fight and went on to have a very respectable career, but a razor-sharp Marvelous Marvin completely outclassed him in both of their fights. Obel Mijas was the taller, longer man with a busy jab and a serviceable right hand. He was also tough, as he had to be to last as long as he did in his first class with the Marvelous One at the Boston Garden. It took a few rounds for Hagler to solve the style of Obel Mijas, but once he did, he dominated, dishing out a vicious two-fisted battering before the referee mercifully ended the one-sided massacre in round 8. Willie Monroe, 12th round TKO, August 23rd, 1977. They called him Willie the Worm, and the man could box. As wins over Stanley Kitten Haywood, Billy Dynamite Douglas, and Eugene Cyclone Hart attest. But the greatest night of Monroe's career was in March of 1976, when they went toe-to-toe with Marvelous Marvin Hagler at the Philadelphia Spectrum and won a 10-round unanimous decision. This was no robbery. Monroe fought his butt off and gave Hagler his first and arguably last legitimate defeat. So naturally, Marvin's convincing victory in their rematch has the rank on this list. After the first fight, Hagler was on record as saying, "I've got a lot to learn." So he went back to Brockton and put in the work, and the following year showed everyone he had indeed learned his lessons, outboxing the Worm with ruthless efficiency before getting the TKO in the 12th and final round. Juan Domingo Rodon, 10th round TKO, March 30th, 1984. Mike Rim in the building. What's happening, Mike Rim? Tomorrow would have been Marvelous Marvin Hagler's 72nd birthday. So we're doing a little salute to him today, Mike, but salute. How many fish you catch this morning, Mike? I know you went fishing. I only had to ask if you went fishing. I just asked how many you caught because I know you went fishing. Salute, Mike Rim. How you doing? Hanging in there. Know you just lost your moms recently, but you're still in our prayers, you and your family. Salute, Mike Rim. Okay, now we're looking at some of Marvelous Marvin Hagler's greatest performances. Juan Domingo Rodon, 10th round TKO, March 30th, 1984. Back in 1984, few knew who Rodon was, beyond the fact that he had put a sudden and violent end to Frank the Animal Fletcher's run as a top contender, an impressive feat in its own right. But at the time, Marvin got little credit for rumbling with the rugged Argentine and eventually stopping him in round 10. But looking back, it's clear this was a fine victory, as this is the same Rodon who also beat Carlos Herrera, Juan Carlos Jimenez, and James the Heat Kitchen, and who came very close to knocking out Thomas the Hitman Hearns himself in 1987. But Hearns survived that one. Rodon came very close, almost stopped the Hitman. Okay? Next, some of Hagler's greatest performances. Vito Antuofermo, 15-round draw, November 30th, 1979. Mike said he didn't go fishing today. He had garden work after the rain. Had to get the weeds out. Okay, Mike. I know you're going to make up for it tomorrow, though. Mike going to be out there on that water bright and early. Salute, Mike. Okay. Vito Antuofermo. This was a bogus 15-round draw. Hagler clearly won the fight. 15 rounds. I give Antuofermo 3-4 at the most. I watched the fight many times trying to give Antuofermo rounds. I had Hagler like 11-4. But the judges called it a draw. Right? Now, anyone who watched this fight and says with a straight face that the judges got it right when they scored the first meeting between Antuofermo and Hagler a draw and denied Hagler a world title bout, anyone that said this was a draw needs to get their eyes checked immediately. Because the truth is, this was a gorgeous performance for Marvelous Marvin, one deserving of more accolades than it has ever received, as Hagler played matador to Antuofermo's bull, artfully deflecting and sidestepping Vito's offensive effort while landing his own telling shots. In fact, it's no exaggeration at all to say Hagler won as many as 11 of the 15 rounds. Forget the official verdict. This was a victory over one of the best middleweights in the world at the time, and an emphatic one. And that would have been Hagler's first title, but they called it a draw. But then he went. Vito lost the title to Minter, and Hagler went to England and beat Minter. That's how he finally got it a year later. But next is Mustafa Hamsha, 11th round TKO, October 3rd, 1981. Oh, tomorrow is Mike Rim's birthday. Happy birthday, Mike. Mike, your birthday is the same day as Marvelous Marvin Hagler, May 23rd. Wow, Mike. Okay, happy birthday. Yeah, that's what we're celebrating today. A salute to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Tomorrow he would have been 72. So salute to Marvelous Marvin Hagler and Mike Rim. Both of their birthdays tomorrow, May 23rd. Okay. Yeah, Mike, you damn near old as me. Okay. I got you about 2 years. Well, I'd be 67, so I got you about 3 years. But anyway, Mustafa Hamsho. You can add Hamsho's name to the list of formidable fighters who might well have become a world champion, if not for the unlucky fact that he shared the middleweight turf with an all-time great, the marvelous one. The Syrian boxer was exceedingly tough and strong, packed some serious power, and had won 27 straight fights coming into the Hagler fight with victories over Wolfer Skipian, Curtis Parker, and Alan Minter. He bravely took the fight to Hagler, but Hagler was just too sharp and too smart, sidestepping and parrying Hamsho's attacks, countering with precision, and winning every round of the fight. In the 11th, a series had and blood, and the one-sided clinic was stopped. Bad Benny Briscoe, 10-round decision, August 24th, 1978. Oh, BVO says he thinks Roy would have beat the marvelous one. I don't know. That would have been a very interesting fight because Roy could have outpointed him. He would have had to stay away from Hagler's power. But Hagler was excellent at cutting the ring off of that. He might have tracked Roy down and got him up out of there, BVO, but that would have been an interesting fight. Now, I would say this. If it went the distance, I would give Roy the decision. But it would take some doing. Because if you fought in Hagler's era, he would have had to stay away from Hagler's power for 15 rounds, BVO. So, a very interesting fight right there. If Roy could manage to make it to the 15, he might would beat Hagler. That would take some doing. Hagler would probably have to stop Roy because I don't think he could outpoint Roy. But a very interesting fight, BVO. But Bad Benny Briscoe. Now, without question, the great Bad Benny was on the downside by the time he locked up with Hagler at the Philadelphia Spectrum. But there's also no doubt that Benny, one of the all-time best to never win a world crown, a Philly warrior who twice battled King Carlos Monzon and gave the Argentine legend some of his toughest rounds, represented a stern test for the young marvelous Marvin. Thus, it was fitting that a record crowd jammed the Spectrum to see Hagler win a clear-cut 10-round decision. Now listen to this. Later, Briscoe paid Marvin a huge compliment when he opined that Hagler would have had the edge in a dream fight against Monzon. And there's nobody better than Bad Benny, because Bad Benny fought two fights with Monzon with the distance, 30 rounds with King Carlos. So Bad Benny said Hagler would have beat King Carlos. I don't know about that, but Bad Benny know better than me. Bad Benny spent 30 rounds with King Carlos and 10 with Hagler, so who would know better than him? Right? Okay. John the Beast Mugabe, 11th round knockout, March 10th, 1986. Now that's how the Beast ended up. He gave Hagler a tough fight, man. A tough fight. The Beast just ran out of gas and Hagler knocked him out. It wasn't a TKO, it was on the deck 10 count knockout. But the Beast rumbled, man. And Hagler proved he had a beard in that fight because the Beast was laying some heavy level on Hagler. But he couldn't get him out of there. Yeah. And the Beast was 26-0. And I think he had like 25 knockouts. And only one person that went the distance with him in that fight. In a fight before Hagler. So anybody, Lester Chen, Beast would have got him out of there. Because him and Hagler rumbled. Let's talk about it. Now, no doubt, some thought the Beast was made to order for Hagler. After all, the Beast was a come-forward slugger, open to Hagler's pinpoint counters, and moving up from the super welterweight division. This was the Beast's first fight at middleweight. But in the Ugandan Warrior's career best performance, he gave Hagler loads of trouble and fight fans a thrilling war, battling as he did with remarkable aplomb, and more than holding his own. In addition to his offensive skills, Marvelous Marvin showed off his incredible toughness this night as the dangerous Mugabe slammed home scores of heavy shots, but could not shake the Marvelous one before Hagler got the clean knockout in round 11. You knocked the beast out cold. See the beast? He's done. Dreaming. Legs all up in the air, dreaming. But the beast, there had nothing to hang his head about. He did his best. Next was the hands of stone. Roberto Duran, 15-round decision for Hagler, November 10th, 1983. And Hagler needed them last couple rounds because Duran was ahead after like 13 on all three cards. But Hagler got him. At the time, many regarded Hagler's performance against the supposedly over-the-hill hands of stone rather underwhelming. But this victory has aged like fine wine, as Hagler clearly got the better of the game Duran. Same Duran who would 4 years later convincingly defeat Iran Barkley in 1989, and who is now universally regarded as one of the greatest fighters to have ever lived, pound for pound. The Hagler fought a tactical fight, his ring skills on par with those of the legendary Panamanian, to prevail by a clear-cut 15-round decision. And that was surprising because everybody thought that was going to be a war, but that was like a technical chess match between Hagler and Duran. Just figure that. Everybody thought that was going to be a straight-up slugfest. It ain't going 15 rounds, but it went 15 in a tactical, scientific chess match. Hagler and Duran. They could fight 10 more times. It would be 9 wars. But that one time they did fight, it was a chess match. Crazy. Alan Minter, 3rd round TKO, September 27th, 1980. This was the fight of the day, but let's look at it again real quick because everybody wasn't here to listen to the fight of the day. Now, no doubt, Hagler knew it was do or die as he got his second crack at a world title against the capable Brit, who had established himself as the top man in the division by twice defeating the tough Vito Antuofermo. A determined Marvelous Marvin boxed with controlled fury on the champion's home turf of Wembley Arena in London, unleashing a vicious attack in the 3rd round that had a bloody Minter reeling about the ring before the champion's trainer signaled surrender. The pro-Minter crowd rioted as the victorious Hagler was whistled to safety by police. But Marvin later said it didn't matter. At the moment his hand was raised as the new world champion was a dream fulfilled. Yeah, it was shameless the way they acted. They threw bottles, all kind of projectiles into the ring. When they first announced Hagler had won it, he was kneeling in the middle of the ring with his hand raised and a bottle of beer just missed his head. And then when him and his team was leaving in the limousine, somebody threw a brick and smashed the windshield. Just shameless, man, shameless. And I saw that live. Well, I wasn't in London. I saw it on TV, Wide World of Sports. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Mike Rim remembers. And it was on Wide World of Sports for free. And I saw that. That was crazy. And they was doing stuff at Minter, too, because they was mad at their old man for losing. Security had to get both of them out of there. Just a couple more. Okay. The next one is Tough Tony Simpson. Tough Tony. There's him and Hagler. 6th round TKO, February 11th, 1983. This is some of Marvin Hagler's toughest battles. Now, the game Simpson was not regarded as a great threat to take Hagler's belt, but at the same time, he was a legit top contender for the title, strong and durable, with everything to fight for. And he gave it his all, constantly coming forward and firing big shots. But Hagler was too sharp. So much in command, he made his opponent look like a rank amateur at times. Marvin's footwork, jab, defense, stance switching, and combinations all working in sync. As Marvelous Marvin put on a clinic for his Massachusetts fans. It was at the Boston Garden, home in Massachusetts. Close observers already knew Hagler was a master boxer, but against Simpson, he was so impressive, so dominant, he looked virtually unbeatable. From a technical point of view, this is Marvelous Marvin Hagler's most masterful performance. And y'all know what number one is. Looking at some of his greatest performances, y'all already know what number one is. Okay? I can't find the picture. But y'all know what number one is. Oh, come on, man. Oh, there it is. Number one, Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Third round TKO, April 15th, 1985. 3-round fight of the year. There can be no question as to what victory belongs at the very top of this list. Hagler vs. Hearns was a blockbuster, one of the biggest super fights of the 1980s, a clash of the two best boxers on the planet at that time, and it more than lived up to the hype. Hearns was coming off a shocking 2-round destruction of Roberto Duran, while Hagler had never faced a challenger as formidable as the Hitman. The legendary 8 Minutes of Fury is now part of boxing lore, and it saw Hagler overcome the power of Hearns and a bad cut to put his rival down and out in round 3. The victory cemented Marvelous Marvin Hagler's status as not just one of the great middleweight champions, but as pound for pound, one of the best of all time. Okay? So now we got something interesting. We're going to look at Hagler fought Sugar Ray in 1987. It was the right fight, but it was the wrong time. Hagler versus Leonard. Right fight, wrong time. It should have been like 4 years earlier in 1983. Let's talk about it. Let me explain this. Right fight, wrong time. Look at the Marvelous One's career today. Would have been 72 years old tomorrow. Him and Sugar Ray. Right fight, wrong time. Let's talk about it. Oh my goodness, that's not it. I can't believe it's almost 3:30. I only been on here like 10 or 15 minutes. Wow. Is it really 3:22? Okay, let's get this going. Right fight, wrong time. Marvelous One. One of the greatest middleweights of all time. Top 3. Him, Carlos Monzon, Harry Gregg, whatever order you want to put it in. Sugar Ray is Robertson is the man at welterweight, but middleweight, Gregg, Hagler, Monzon, all in front of Sugar Ray Robertson at middleweight. Okay, let's talk about this. Right fight, wrong time. This is very interesting. And we're going to look at if the fight would have been in 1983, how it would have went. Okay? Right fight, wrong time. Hagler versus Leonard. Instead of 1987, it should have been in 1983. Okay? Can I take a drink of water real quick? My mouth dry. Damn. Okay, let's get into this. Right fight, wrong time. What did you mean, Cass? Glad y'all asked. Let me explain. Okay. Now, back in 1987, Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvelous Marvin Hagler threw down in a highly anticipated middleweight title fight in Las Vegas. A glorious spectacle that captured the attention of the entire sports world. Now, the outcome, which saw the challenger Leonard and big underdog prevail by a 12-round split decision, and that's still hotly debated to this day. Now, the fight changed the course of both fighters' careers, as Hagler, certain he had been robbed and sick of never getting the respect he deserved, hung up his gloves for good. Leonard, who had first retired back in 1982, went on to win more big fights, and he won the world titles in both the super middleweight and light heavyweight divisions after that. Leonard did. So, Crush, the legend in the building. What's up, Crush? Crush, tomorrow would have been Marvelous Marvin Hagler's May 23rd, 72nd birthday. So we're doing a little salute to him today. Let's salute Crush. Another great show this morning. Crush the Legend from the STN Network. 6:30 a.m. most weekdays. Okay, salute Crush. Now we're talking about Hagler and Sugar Ray. It was in 87, but it should have been in 1983. Okay. Now, this colossal super fight of 1987 between these two superstars could have and should have taken place at a much earlier date, 1983. Now, as incredible as the event was in 1987, let's be honest, the actual fight in terms of drama, intensity, action, and its respective ring performance failed to truly match the hype. And the reason for this is simple. Now, while both Leonard and Hagler were still formidable at that time, neither was anywhere close to being at their best going into that legacy-defining clash. In fact, in 1987, there were far more questions regarding these two fighters than there were superlatives. Now, while Hagler was just 32 and hadn't lost a fight in 11 years, some wondered if his skills were eroding, a fact seemingly borne out by his grueling battle with John the Beast Mugabe a year earlier in 1986. All the tough fights and all the grinding years of training had taken their toll on Hagler. Meanwhile, Leonard had fought only once in 5 years, and his inactivity caused many to be concerned for his welfare as he stepped up to take on the biggest and baddest challenge of his career. But rewind 5 years, and the situation was very different. At that time, you would have been hard-pressed to find anyone, boxing experts, media, hardcore or casual fans, anyone who did not regard Leonard and Hagler as the number 1 and 2 fighters in all of boxing. At that time, like 1982, Leonard and Hagler was number 1 and 2, whichever way you want to put it. At that time, okay? No question about it. It is Hagler and the Beast. And that's when he looked something less than marvelous in that fight, okay? And even before he got his paws on the middleweight belt, there was a strong consensus that Hagler was already the best fighter in the division. Everybody called him the uncrowned king. After being blatantly robbed in his first world title opportunity against Vito Antuofermo in 1979, Hagler finally captured the undisputed middleweight title in 1980 from Alan Minner in an authoritative display. From then on, Hagler used his menacing and bruising style to batter their opposition into submission, and few wanted any part of the middleweight king in the early 80s. Even though it was champion, a lot of people still didn't want to fight it, okay? As the boogeyman of the 160-pound division, and they call people boogeyman nowadays, within the 80s, Hagler was the real definition of a boogeyman at middleweight, okay? And as the boogeyman of the 160-pound division, Hagler needed a worthy challenger who would elevate his name and produce the big payday he so justly wanted. The obvious choice was the man who was the game's biggest attraction at that time, Sugar Ray Leonard. Okay? Yeah, that's just a shot of Hagler with somebody on the mat. I think that might be Juan Rodingo Rodon. I ain't sure, but he was just dominant in the early 80s. He was champion, and a lot of people still didn't want to fight him. Like, I don't need that championship. As long as Hagler got it, I don't need it. They still didn't want to fight him, okay? Now, Sugar Ray would have been the Aubrey's opponent at that time, like 82, 83. Now, Sugar Ray was regarded as the heir apparent to Muhammad Ali, who had just left the sport. Sugar Ray was a media favorite and a ratings hit on national television. He was marketable. He had a smile that lit up a room and fast fists that put butts in seats. And he had already defeated the likes of Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, and Wilfred Benitez in exciting, high-profile fights. And all three of them sits in the Hall of Fame. And they went in the Hall of Fame when the Hall of Fame still meant something. That was before people like Sylvester Stallone and Turkey Al-Sheikh got put in the Hall of Fame. It's a joke now, but when Hearns, Duran, Benitez, people like that went in, it still meant something. And before those victories, as the undisputed middleweight champion, Sugar Ray Leonard's star power was on the level with that of other current superstars of that period, such as Magic Johnson of National Basketball Association fame, Wayne Gretzky, who was the face of the National Hockey League, and Bo Jackson, who was a superstar in the National Football League and Major League Baseball. Sugar Ray was on the same level as stars like that in other sports at the time. So that would have been the perfect time for him and Hagler to fight. That was the perfect time for a Hagler versus Leonard super fight. Both were established attractions, exuding major crossover appeal, and both were smack dab in the middle of their primes. Not to mention the two major faces of the entire sport at that time, okay? Arnie Boxing, what's up? Yeah, Fulio, that's what he called him. Yeah, that was Fulgencio. Thank you, Arnie. Yeah, Fulio. Salute, Arnie Boxing. Okay, yeah, we're talking about the fight between Leonard and Hagler happened like 5 years too late. So let's continue. 1983 would have been the perfect time, though. I forgot where I was at. Yeah, if ever there was a time when Hagler versus Leonard should have happened, it was in 1983. And both men knew it. Now, always the one to put on a show. Leonard held a black tie gala on November 9th, 1982 at the Baltimore Convention Center, where thousands attended, including Hagler. Hagler came all the way from Massachusetts down there. And Hagler had come expecting to hear Leonard announce that Sugar Ray vs. Marvin was on. But instead, Leonard addressed the crowd and at the end declared, a fight with this great man, with this great champion, would be one of the greatest fights in history. Unfortunately, it will never happen. Yeah, so Hagler like, well, why did you invite me all the way from Massachusetts? I could have watched this on TV. He could have gave a little press conference and said that he invited thousands of people at Black Tie Gala to say the fight wasn't happening. It's Sugar Ray and Hearns right there. I was supposed to put that up there earlier, but that's okay. So when Sugar Ray said the fight wasn't happening, a bewildered Hagler was more than a little pissed off for being led on. And he left Baltimore mad and still seeking that major fight that would exhibit how great he was. While Leonard, due to a detached retina injury, retired. What a shame. But what would have happened if Leonard had made the opposite pronouncement in Baltimore that night? If instead he would have said, fortunately, it's going to happen. And Hagler versus Leonard was immediately set for early in 1983. Hagler was then 28 years old, and Sugar Ray was 26. As huge an attraction as Sugar Ray versus Hagler was in 87, a battle in 1983 would have topped any level of hype. Just multiply the 87 fight by 10, you would have had the battle in 1983. And more to the point, it would have resulted in a much better fight. Just imagine what might have unfolded in a clash between Sugar Ray and Marvelous Marvin when both were near their respective peaks. Okay? Just imagine how it would have been in 83. You have in one corner the orthodox Ray with his lightning quick jabs, nimble movement, underrated power, awesome flurries, not to mention his killer instinct and willingness to go into the trenches if necessary. In addition, Ray was a consummate performer, a boxer who loved to put on a show for the fans. And in the opposite corner is Marvelous Marvin Hagler, the bigger man and the southpaw switch hitter with power in both hands, a deadly jab, heavy body attack, a granite chin, and incredible conditioning. How would a battle between Sugar Ray and Marvelous Marvin have unfolded in 1983? We'll never know, but let's take a look at how it could have turned out. We'll never know how it would have turned out 4 years earlier, but let's take a look how it could have turned out, okay? Now this here is significant, this right here. First of all, in 1983, it's scheduled for 15 rounds, not 12, because the Duke Kim and Boom Boom Mancini tragedy had happened, but they hadn't met the 12 yet. Championship fights were still mandated to be 15 rounds. By 87, it was 15 and 12, and Sugar Ray negotiated that to 12 rounds. But in 83, it would have had to have been 15. So that Sugar Ray would have had 3 more rounds to try to stay away from Hagler's power. That would have been significant. It would have been 15 rounds. That's the first thing. Now, Ray would have utilized the same basic approach as he did in 1987. But the huge difference being that in 83, he's at his apex. The Leonard would have used plenty of movement and some fancy footwork to throw Hagler off and avoid the bigger man's power, similar to how he boxed Roberto Duran in the famous No Mas rematch. Now, if Hagler had a weakness, it was adapting to foes with speed and agility, who used the ring and kept their distance from his power. Now, given Leonard's skill and astonishing speed, Ray would stick and move and give Hagler some major problems. Okay? Now, but that said, peak Hagler would be far more assertive and sure of himself than was the case in 87, when he fought the first 4 rounds tentatively and the first 2 from the orthodox stance. He would have did that in 83, and that cost him the fight in 87 because he lost both rounds. He fought the first 2 rounds against the Beast in 86 and the first 2 in 87 from the orthodox stance. He never did that before. That cost him the fight. He lost both rounds. 83, he would have started out southpaw, okay? And Hagler would have set a faster pace and pressed Leonard. He would have took some quick counters from Leonard in the process, but also he would have caught Ray with timely hooks and heavy straight lefts. Now, like the second fight, wouldn't have been no knockdowns. No, either man's stamina would have waned. But Hagler's body punching and inside fighting would have sapped some energy out of Leonard as the fight went on. And remember, this time it's 83, it would have been 15. As the fight progresses, Hagler has increasing success in cornering Leonard and forcing exchanges on the inside. And it's in those moments when Marvin's advantages in size and strength are telling. And again, it would have been 15 instead of 12. That would have gave Hagler 3 more rounds to operate on Ray. But Ray negotiated it in 87 to 12, right? I don't know why Hagler went for that, because it was still 15 then too. Now, whenever you have a matchup between a great natural middleweight in their prime going up against a great natural welterweight in their prime, with both being virtually equal skill-wise, the advantage generally swings in the direction of the bigger man. With both fighting at their highest level, and with the momentum shifting throughout, you have to pick Hagler to do just enough to prevail over Leonard in a 15-round classic. Okay? But it would have been, what a fight in 1983. And if you think the 1987 fight was something, there's no doubt the 83 battle would have wiped the floor with it. Just multiply 87 by 10, you have a fight 4 years early in 83. Now, a 1983 Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvelous Marvin Hagler super fight is the all-time greatest what-if matchup in boxing history, topping all the other amazing clashes that hardcore boxing fans wish they could somehow go back in time and make happen, such as Jack Dempsey versus Harry Wills in 1925. Jake LaMotta versus Rocky Graciano in 1950. Roberto Duran versus Alexis Aguero in 1978. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Aaron Pryor in 1982. Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield in 1991 instead of 96 and 97. Lennox Lewis versus Riddick Bowe in 1993. And Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao in 2010 instead of 2015. And all those fights are not fantasy matchups. All those fighters that I just named fought in the same era, but for whatever reason, most of them didn't happen, and the ones that did happen happened too late. The boxing gods giveth, and the boxing gods taketh away. And for whatever reason, they decided Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Sugar Ray Leonard in 1983 could not be ours. All we can do is dream about what might have been. Okay, and finally, let's finish it off with a look at Hagler and his trainers, the legendary Petronelli brothers. Now, all the four kings are legendary trainers, but for some reason, the Petronelli brothers don't get the love that the other four kings trainers get. Like Thomas Hearn said, Emmanuel Stewart, and even casual fans know him. They think he's legendary. Roberto Duran had Ray Arcel, talked about legendary. Sugar Ray had Angelo Dundee. He had Sugar Ray and Ali. He's legendary. But the Petronelli brothers were great trainers, but they don't get their props. There they go with Hagler. So let's talk about it. Hagler and his legendary trainers, the Petronelli brothers. An unbreakable bond. Okay? An unbreakable bond. Now, his personal motto was destruct and destroy. It certainly seemed to legions of admirers as if Marvelous Marvin Hagler himself was indestructible. Okay? Now, it's taken all of us to get there, Hagler once said in acknowledgement of the integral role the Petronelli brothers played in his success. The triangle, we stick together. Occasionally, throughout the years, overtures were made to Marvin in ill-guided attempts to muscle Pat and Goody out of the equation, but Hagler wouldn't hear of it. In a profession where the truth is too often mangled in the unrecognizable forms, and relationships can be as fleeting and empty as the promises that tear them apart, Marvin Hagler was a principled man of his word who never wavered from what he knew to be right and wrong. For him, there was no gray area. Okay? No gray area for Hagler. Even Bob Arum, there's Hagler with the two Petronelli brothers. Even Bob Arum had to admit that theirs was the strongest and closest connection between a boxer and his advisors that he had ever seen. And coming from a guy like the Bob father, who has been around the block a time or two, that's saying something. Nothing is stronger than a triangle, maintained Goody Petronelli. 3 men, 1 mission. Marvin Hagler was a man of few words, a mercenary who preferred to let his fists do the talking. And when it was necessary for him to discuss his approach to boxing, Hagler could be every bit the artist he was inside the ring, evoking warlike imagery to paint frighteningly vivid verbal tableaus, wherein he was the hand-to-hand combatant, implementing strategies drawn up with deliberate precision by Goody Petronelli, who took a very hands-on approach to the everyday mechanics, while Pat Petronelli concerned himself with the logistical and financial details. Each individual was well aware what was required of him to keep the war machine well-oiled and running along the landscape of boxing's battlefields, and never once did any of them overstep their respective boundaries. Okay? Now, Hagler's mother, Ida Mae, took the family out of Newark, New Jersey, when a second outburst of race riots occurred in 1969 and headed northeast, settling in their relatives who lived in Brockton, Massachusetts. And that same year, almost as if fate ordained it, the Petronellis went into the boxing business. Same year Hagler moved to Massachusetts, they went into the boxing business. And that was after Goody got home from the Navy. And they expanded the small Brockton gym, Pat had opened 4 years earlier, into a bigger establishment on the second floor of a brick building on Center Street that housed a hardware store on street level. Now, had he not been killed in a plane crash that very August, a close friend of the Petronellis, who also happened to have been the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world when he hung up the gloves in 1955, he would have partnered up with the Petronellis, Rocky Marciano. In Newark, I'd never heard of Rocky Marciano, but as soon as I hit Brockton, I found out, admitted Hagler, who had trained not terribly seriously with a social worker known as Mr. Joe as a 10-year-old back in New Jersey, mostly having fun, shadowboxing, and pretending to be Emma Griffith or Floyd Patterson. From what everyone told me, Rocky always kept himself in very good condition. He was from the old school. Now, Marvin might not have finished high school, but he most definitely graduated from the same metaphorical old school as Rocky Marciano did. Now, he doesn't have Rocky's style. Rocky's defense was his offense, Goody later said in comparison to the two Brockton legends. But Marvin's got the same heart Rocky had, the same ability to take a punch, the same determination. Hagler was a 15-year-old with holes in his sneakers and a single dollar in the pocket of his cut-off jeans when he started turning up at different neighborhood gyms where he would just sit and soak up the atmosphere, watching intently as the fighters were put through their paces. After a handful of visits to the Petronelli's place, Goody approached and asked the quiet black kid, observing everything from a far corner, if he wanted to learn how to box. Okay, Goody approached him and asked him if he wanted to learn how to box. So Marvin replied in the affirmative, telling the old well-meaning white guy that was why he was there. Hagler told Goody he was going to become a world champion. And Goody, no doubt having heard that from every kid that come in there, was thinking like, yeah, right. And I'm going to be your trainer when you become a world champion, right? Little did they know what they were saying would come true. Little did they know. Trust, as it should be, was always a hard-won commodity with Marvin Hagler. So it stands to reason that this was naturally the case with him and the Petronelli brothers. In Newark, pretty much the only experience Hagler had dealing with white folks was limited to school teachers, mail couriers, store clerks, and police officers. In other words, authority figures, who Marvin, by experience, had reason to be wary of. Hagler said, if they were nice to me, I thought, what do they want from me? I had to learn for myself how people really were, he reflected. When I found out all white people weren't bad, I started to relax around them. It took me a long time, but Goody and Pat Petronelli had a lot to do with that. Now, the Petronelli brothers were sympathetic to Marvin's sensitive and standoffish demeanor, taking the time and patience they understood were required to nurture their relationship. The trust that was built between the three as a result of these efforts paid dividends for all involved. In the beginning, they never took a dime of my purses, Hagler said in retrospect, They told me one day we'll all make money, and that's what we ended up doing. It is good to see them get the respect they deserve. We came up the hard way. Anytime we got everything we got, we worked for. That's why there's a bond between us and the champ, recounted Pat, who Marvin would later ask to be the godfather to his daughter Sherelle. Goody, one of the very select few running partners that Hagler would allow to accompany him on his road work, concurred. He elaborated on his brother's statement by adding, "We were never given anything on a silver platter. It was the same with Marvin. Nobody gave him a single break." A Master Chief Petty Officer in the Navy, Goody had served as a boxing coach who trained a squad of military boxers stationed at the Naval Air Base at Grosse Isle, Michigan, that took on a visiting group of Golden Glove champions from Detroit. And prior to that, Goody had fought at welterweight in the novice ranks under his birth name of Garino Petronelli and racked up 26 fights, 23 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. Any hopes of his career progressing past that point were derailed by injuries that continued to nag him after breaking his hand. Okay? Now his brother Pat Petronelli, whose real name was Pasquale, carried on a briefer flirtation with amateur boxing, quickly finding that the rigorous training required to make a serious commitment to boxing was not to his liking, so he didn't stick with it. Having grown up on welfare during a particularly lean times, the pair of Petronelli siblings came from a shared background to construction and followed in their father's footsteps by starting their own firm, which they used to help underwrite the cost of running the boxing facility. And when he wasn't skipping rope, sparring, or banging away at the heavy bag in the Petronelli's gym, Marvin Hagler earned $3 an hour digging ditches, pouring concrete, or framing buildings on one of the Petronelli's construction sites. So the Petronellis gave Hagler a job when he was an amateur to help him support his mother and his siblings because there was no father in the home. So they really looked out for him. And no matter the task at hand, Hagler's work ethic was nothing less than completely disciplined. Marvin never had to be asked twice and often didn't have to be told at all. And this never changed one bit in his career. Now, Hagler was a natural right-hander, but for some reason felt more comfortable fighting from the southpaw stance. Now, Goody went with it initially, grooming him as a lefty for his amateur outings, up to and including his run through the 1973 AAU National Tournament, where he won the award for the outstanding boxer in a distinguished field that included, among others, Aaron Pryor, the Spinks brothers, and his future nemesis, Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, along the way, Goody encouraged Marvin to box orthodox as well, so that he would have more than one weapon in his arsenal. It was with this ambidextrous attack that he knocked out Terry Ryan in the second round of his pro debut at the Brockton High School. And the switch-hitting marvelous Marvin Hagler we would come to know and love was born. Like he said to Johnny Carson while raising both balled-up fists during his 1987 appearance on The Tonight Show prior to the Leonard fight, "If this one doesn't get you, then this one will." Okay, holding up both fists. Now, operating under the often correct assumption that managers were hesitant to match their fighters opposite of southpaw, promoter Sam Silverman had urged the Petronellis to work with and build Hagler as a right-hander to be able to secure him more frequent fights. 3 fights and 2 knockouts in Marvin's pro career. Silverman changed his tune telling Goody, let Hagler revert to being a safety. He's more devastating that way. And it's been said that no signed contract ever existed between Marvelous Marvin Hagler and the Petronelli brothers. All they had was a handshake and an agreement throughout their 14-year professional partnership. Just a handshake and an agreement. Never signed a contract between them. That's amazing. And they remain connected even after Hagler's controversial 1987 loss to Sugar Ray Leonard and subsequent exile to Italy. Then the Petronellis turned their collective attention toward guiding the careers of Marvin's half-brother, Robbie Sims, Steve Collins, Kevin McBride, Peter McNeely, and Drake Dassey, just to name a few. And the first side of the triangle fell away in September 2011 with the passing of Pat Petronelli. Unable to withstand the grief of having lost both his brother and his wife, Marion, within weeks of each other, Goody passed away 4 months later after Pat, and the top part of the triangle was gone. Marvelous Marvin Hagler shouldered the burden on his own until he passed away in 2021. Now, my character, after getting ventilated by bullets, was supposed to die, recalled Hagler, of his experience filming a political thriller called Neti de Para, or Night of Fear, on location in Russia. The director told me to die. Believe it or not, that was the hardest scene I ever played in. I mean, how exactly do you die? Hey, I've never died. I've only lived. There you have it. Marvin Hagler and his legendary trainers, the Petronelli brothers. Salute to the marvelous one who would have been 72 years old tomorrow. Appreciate everybody. Irony Boxing, Crush the Legend, Mike Rim, Al Booger, BBO Sports TV, Ken Saw Loved One, Mike Mazik, Jaw, Thomas Hill, Miss Cass. Everybody have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed the salute to the marvelous one today. 72 years old tomorrow. He passed away 5 years ago at 66. Just a couple months before his birthday. Way too early. But what a career he had. One of the best middleweights of all time. Right there with her. I got Harry Greb one, and then Hagler and King Carlos Monzon, whichever way you want to put it. Now, Bad Benny Briscoe, like I said earlier, he spent 30 rounds with King Carlos, and he fought Hagler too. King Carlos, 2 15-round fights, 30 rounds, 10 rounds with Hagler. And Benny Briscoe said he would give Hagler the edge. Who would know better? He fought both fighters. 30 tough rounds with King Carlos. So Bad Benny Briscoe gave the edge to Hagler. Okay? But you know, both great middleweights. I got Harry Greb over both of them. But top 3 middleweights. Sugar Ray Robinson is the top man at welterweight. I got him number 4 behind Harry Greb, Hagler, and King Carlos at middleweight. We really appreciate everybody support over the week. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we'll be back Monday. Monday, we're going to look at, we did the Ring Magazine Fights of the Year. We did Ring Magazine Fighters of the Year. Monday, we're going to do Ring Magazine Rounds of the Year. That started in 1945. Naming a round every year. We're going to go over the round of the year every year from 1945 on Monday and just see what exactly happened in the round and make it the greatest round of the year. That will be Monday. Okay, but now we're going to get up out of here. It's the weekend. We got Usyk in there tomorrow. Next week is another big one. O'Shaki and Raymond Ford. I got O'Shaki in that one. I hope then Shakur, if O'Shaki wins, maybe we'll get to O'Shaki and Shakur. Shakur, I don't think he'll have too hard of a time with O'Shaki. One of them, be careful what you wish for, O'Shaki. He'll beat Raymond Ford, but Shakur is a totally different story. He would dominate O'Shaki. I had too many people beating Shakur. I know Arnie thinks differently. In talks, that'll be another big one for the year. We got Boots and Xander coming up next month. It's almost next month, right? So that's coming up. Boxing has been good to us. We're getting some good fights this year. Not all the ones we want, but some of them. But I appreciate everybody for stopping through today. Join me Monday for the Ring Magazine rounds of the year. Everybody have a great weekend and a safe one. I will talk to y'all on the other side of it. If it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Appreciate y'all's support. Thank you. Everybody have a great weekend.